No one is truly ready for what's up next, guys. This is just ridiculous at this point, or is it? When we stated 300k by perhaps next year for Bitcoin's price, it seems like our thoughts are aligning with the people who are in the know. Why? Justin from Bitcoin Magazine, ARK Invest updates their 2030 Bitcoin price prediction to $2.4 million. And the only way it could really go there is if we start accelerating from here on out. Now, this is crazy, guys. Okay, so just hearing this number is honestly mind-boggling. $2.4 million by 2030. 2030 price targets active supply bull case assumptions. The base case of what they're thinking is $1.2 million, and then bear case 500k. Right? So you won't lose, that means. Even investing at this high, you will not lose by 2030. Right? I'm assuming they're stating right here. Technically, basically, right? Because the bear case didn't even put the extreme bear case, which is probably near zero. But honestly, I think before the collapse, these prices are possible and a lot quicker than 2030, as they suggest right here. Yeah, that's crazy. 2.4 million, huh? The only way XRP and our altcoins will pump is by Bitcoin pumping this ridiculously hard. Remember that. Never forget. Please like today's video and let's go. Because it seems like the market is becoming euphoric again. And that's what we need. Time to realize you have been right here before. Last time, gold went parabolic as global liquidity surged out of its retested breakout. Bitcoin then launched 500%. If Bitcoin goes 500% from this area, that's like near 500k. I'm telling you, it's possible. It truly is. Consolidation phase for gold, parabolic move, consolidation, parabolic move. Global liquidity, consolidation, parabolic move, consolidation, parabolic move happening right now for Bitcoin. Parabola, consolidation, parabolic, consolidation, and another parabolic move incoming, right? Which all matches up together, which tells me that the everything pump is happening as we speak, right? This is the banana zone. We're entering it, guys, where everything goes full on bananas. 1 month later, right on schedule from Zero Hedge. And this is before the Fed, ECB, and other banks around the globe started easing. Now, this is Bitcoin versus global M2, guys. Perhaps the bottom is already in. Wow. That's crazy. Is the bottom in, huh? The thing is, on the higher time frames for Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and all your S coins, there are bullish divergences on the weekly time frame and plus. Right, on the higher time frames. That's a strong case for the bottom being in, right? I wouldn't doubt that, guys. And Global M2 says the bottom is already in for every crypto, right? Because Bitcoin and the global money supply, M2, have been correlated to each other. Global M2, the green line, has been skyrocketing. Okay, which means Bitcoin should follow it here soon. 150k Bitcoin could be in the horizon by June. Wow. And you guys can see how it forms, right? That's a parabolic move higher, right? It goes higher and steeper and it gets faster, guys, like that. Yeah. I mean, it's possible. What's happening to the Indian M2 money supply, right? So everyone is just going higher, guys. All these other countries. And Donald Trump just gave one of the biggest signals to something positive occurring with the markets. Donald Trump said, just landed in Rome, a good day in talks and meetings with Russia and Ukraine. They are very close to a deal, and the two sides should now meet at very high levels. To finish it off, most of the major points are agreed to. Stop the bloodshed now. We will be wherever is necessary to help facilitate the end to this cruel and senseless war, guys. Okay, so this is what Donald Trump stated. If a deal does come through, extremely bullish for markets, for the stock market and cryptos, guys, right? Because now there's more certainty. Time to end it all, right? China exempts some United States imports from 125% tariffs. Isn't it fascinating how bullish news are occurring, it seems like every day now, when crypto started pumping, right? But when we're at the bottom, right? When we're at the bottom, so much negative news, right? So much negative news. Now, the end is not yet until number 2 happens. Point number 1 is Satoshi Nakamoto selling, right? Transferring his coins to a hot wallet and just selling it all. Trigger number 2 for the end is this. Trump has stated, reporter, quote, "Would you support a ban on congressional stock trading?" End quote. Trump says, "Well, I watched Nancy Pelosi get rich through insider information, and I would be okay with it. If they send that to me, I would do it." End quote. Reporter says, "You'll sign it?" Trump says, "Of course, absolutely." So he watched Nancy Pelosi get rich through insider information, and she's not in prison. Look at that. Not in jail, no backlash, nothing. Nothing happens, right? Technically, we're not insider traders, but the information we get from riddles can be used as an argument that we are kind of in the know. But not really, because Nancy Pelosi gets calls to buy certain stocks, I guess. I don't know how it works, to be honest, but before they announce something positive with that stock, with that company, and then the stock shoots up and then she sells. That's what I'm saying. I need to be a politician and get in this game, right? Because it's free money. If you want to become filthy rich, become a politician. I'm telling you. You have friends behind the scenes that will help you. Simple. But if Trump, or when Trump signs this law that they cannot trade anymore, the top is in. Remember this saying, okay? They sold multiple times before the top occurred. Just remember. But until then, we're going to keep on. So it's quite clear, guys. I don't know why people are so fearful of the markets when they haven't really gotten out. When you see the billionaires get out, you get out too. It's just simple as following the money. For now, let us go to millions of dollars of Bitcoin, hundreds of XRP, then Ethereum, 30,000, I don't know. BlackRock says Bitcoin is already decoupled from tech stocks over the long run if you zoom out. Bitcoin thrives when you have more uncertainty. Not really, but this is BlackRock saying it. It's time to be bullish.
Is now about to decouple from U.S. tech stocks. Many are talking about sell U.S. assets kind of behavior in the global markets. Do you think this is the moment?
Well, crypto over the long run is decoupled from U.S. tech stocks. I think what you have to look at is, are you looking on a short-term basis or are you looking over a longer-term basis? Over a short-term basis, you can see all types of different assets have rising correlations to each other. And in fact, if you look at the last few weeks under more market uncertainty, you've seen everything from stocks and bonds to crypto trading with higher correlations. But if you zoom out, you tend to see the kind of longer-term fundamental thesis of something like Bitcoin really drive it to behave differently than traditional assets.
This is all false, by the way, right? They're using a narrative that Bitcoin is decoupled from tech stocks and stuff like that, guys. The only reason it's going up is to lure the world to join. The only reason I've said this, that they will prop every coin to unimaginable heights, even altcoins, and altcoins will get diabolic because that's where retail floods into our altcoins, not Bitcoin. By this point in time, they'll pump everything super hard, guys. No matter what happens in the world, right? No matter what. If there are negative news like wars and inflation and all that stuff, it's actually bullish and positive for cryptos to go higher. So none of this is the case, except the only end goal here, their goal is to prop it all, because that's how cycles end, long-term macro cycles of a system, of a financial system.
The long-term correlation between U.S. stocks and Bitcoin is more like 0.2 or 0.3. It's a lowly correlated asset, and it's because what drives stocks, which tends to be things like higher growth, higher certainty, lower geopolitical risk, many of those things actually are kind of opposite drivers for Bitcoin. Bitcoin thrives when you have more uncertainty and are looking for something that's going to behave differently. So fundamentally, this should behave like an uncorrelated asset, and I think as we continue to see more time play out in this uncertain environment, you will see a dispersion between these assets.
Yeah, so Jay,
yeah, it is interesting, though, that so much negative news was being thrown out like weeks ago, months ago, but Bitcoin has held up. XRP tremendously strong. Ethereum not really, but it will become strong again. Think about that, because the end is not in sight, not yet, until things get crazy. Public company Selmer Scientific buys another 111 Bitcoin worth $10 million. This United States senator purchased up to 250K in Bitwise spot Bitcoin ETF. What does he know? A politician? They're even calling the shadow banks, the shadow money, to flood their money into Bitcoin. Look at this.
In such times, society needs resilient institutions like the Swiss National Bank. And here, I want to point out a fundamental difference to other speakers. The green activists want you to support their agenda. They distract the Swiss National Bank from its mission. The Bitcoin initiative, in contrast, seeks to support the National Bank by providing it with a monetary tool for the digital age. How is that? Bitcoin is a special asset. I have to admit, it might not be worth much in scenarios that most of you consider normal. However, Bitcoin can be worth a lot in the specific scenario of a multipolar world order with fading trust in government debt. The high price of gold and Bitcoin is the market signal to tell us that this scenario is not unlikely. In economic terms, Bitcoin resembles an arrow security, named after the Nobel Prize winner Kenneth Arrow. And as anyone with a formal education in portfolio theory knows, the question is not whether to hold an arrow security, it's how much should be held. I leave it to the competent employees at the Swiss National Bank to figure out the right amount, but I'm pretty sure that it is higher than the 1,000 Bitcoin you already hold indirectly through shares of companies that have Bitcoins. If you want our help with these considerations, we stand at your disposal.
Look at that. This is insanity. They're literally going to get every bank, every company buying Bitcoin, every country, right? Until Bitcoin is probably like near $1 million before the collapse. So I'm glad we're all in, guys, right? Or here to witness it all. Now, the nature vice. Let's see what comes up next. But anyways, that's amazing days. See ya.